Even the most flexible layouts have their limits and will eventually reach a point where they, well, break, which is exactly where breakpoints come in, allowing us to adapt layouts to drastically different viewport sizes like desktop computers, tablets, and phones. In this lesson, we're looking how to take the responsiveness of our sites to the next level using breakpoints in Framer. For this one, we'll pick up where we left off at the end of the previous lesson. We got pretty far in making this layout flex nicely as the viewport changes size, but even still, we do eventually get to the point where the layout just doesn't work anymore. On more narrow tablets or phones, we just won't have the width we need for headings to be quite so large, or for things to sit side by side, etc. So for this particular layout, we're definitely going to need a phone breakpoint to adapt to the most narrow viewport sizes. And we could probably use a tablet breakpoint as well for when things start to get crunched, like the feature section or the footer. At the top of the desktop breakpoint, we see the breakpoint bar, where on the left, we can see that this breakpoint is called desktop and is set to 1200 pixels. And we can double click to change the name and the size. But changing the name here is the same as renaming this breakpoint on the layers panel. And changing the size here is the same as changing the width of this breakpoint on the properties panel. But things don't really get interesting until we create multiple breakpoints. So let's start by clicking this add button on the right-hand side, where we get to choose to add a tablet preset that's 810 pixels wide, a phone preset that's 390 pixels wide, or a custom breakpoint. An endless debate rages on regarding what exact pixel size is ideal for each breakpoint, but the defaults in Framer are actually a really solid happy medium to start with. But let's also be sure we're clear on what these numbers really mean. The size of the breakpoint is the size that'll appear on the canvas, but more importantly, it's the minimum size for this breakpoint to appear in the browser. So 810 means show this layout when the viewport width is larger than 810 pixels. Unless and until we hit the next larger breakpoint. Since our next larger desktop breakpoint is 1200 pixels, the desktop breakpoint will appear at or above a 1200 pixel viewport width. But the tablet breakpoint will appear when the viewport is even just 1 pixel smaller than that, or 1199 pixels. In fact, you'll see the number 1199 next to tablet, because despite starting at 810 pixels, it'll reach its limit at 1199, then switch over to the desktop breakpoint 1 pixel later. When I create my phone breakpoint, you'll see the same thing going on next to the word phone. And with tablet now sitting between both a larger and smaller breakpoint, it now shows the range between its upper limit and its lower limit. Okay, mental model number 1 out of the way. Now you know what the sizes of breakpoints mean and how they relate to layout switching over in the browser. Now it's time to talk about the mechanics of editing things between breakpoints in Framer. You may have noticed that our breakpoints look like they all share the same content, and that's because they do. But the desktop breakpoint is the boss. If you think of a page like one giant component, the desktop breakpoint is the primary variant, and the other breakpoints are variants where we can override things. We can override layout properties, style properties, component variants, and even layer order or visibility, but ultimately, every breakpoint always shares the same elements. And again, since the desktop breakpoint is the boss, any changes we make there get inherited by the other breakpoints. But those changes don't continue to cascade down. If you override a property on the tablet breakpoint, for example, it won't have any effect on the phone breakpoint, and vice versa. Now let's actually get in here and make some changes to optimize this layout for each breakpoint. So now on my canvas, I've got my 3 breakpoints, and I want to start with optimizing the tablet breakpoint, and then we'll move on to the mobile breakpoint. And you can see here, when I select a layer on this tablet breakpoint, you can see a little shadow outline around this same selection on the other breakpoints, which is further evidence that this is the same element. It just happens to show up on all 3 breakpoints. It shows up on every breakpoint. But I'm going to press Command 2 to zoom in on my selection here. I'll zoom out just ever so slightly. And let's start by fixing the layout of these 4 cards, which are laid out horizontally in 4 columns that work great on the desktop breakpoint, but are starting to get a little crunched on the tablet breakpoint. So what I'm going to do is just reduce the number of columns from 4 down to 2. And now you can see the word columns actually turned blue, and that indicates that this property has been overridden, that this property differs on this breakpoint from the desktop breakpoint. And I can actually click on that label and reset that override at any time if I choose to. So all these adjustments are very non-destructive. I'll point out again while we're here that this change that I made to the tablet breakpoint did not cascade down to the phone breakpoint. These overrides are completely separate between the two. So while we're here looking at the phone breakpoint, I'm going to select that same frame and I'm going to reduce the columns from 4 all the way down to 1. And that's a pretty common thing, reducing a 4-column or 3-column or even 2-column layout down to 1 column on phones because they're so narrow. The other way we could go about this is just by switching it from a grid to a stack and making it a vertical stack. Pretty much the same effect since we're only distributing these things on 1 axis instead of 2. A grid is kind of overkill. And to further improve things here on the phone breakpoint, I'm going to come up to where our hero image is. And the padding is pushing in on the hero image and making it smaller than it needs to be. This image could and probably should fill the full width of this narrow viewport that we have available to us. So I'll select its parent frame that has the padding on it. That's the section itself. And this right padding, I'm going to reduce from 40 down to 0. And same with the left padding from 40 down to 0. And that does right by the image, but the text up above does get wider than I want it to, which is fine because if I click on this text box, you can see here that its parent is this text lockup frame. And that text lockup frame could have that 40 pixels of side padding instead of the entire section having it. So I'm going to add the 40 pixels here and left padding. And now we're kind of back where we started, with the exception of this little issue where we have rounded corners for a full width image, which is kind of weird, kind of awkward. We don't want rounded corners if we're going full bleed, so to speak, off the edges. So I'm going to select this image, find our corner radius down here, and I'm going to reduce that down to 0. That now looks much more natural with the edges being flush from top to bottom. Another thing I'll point out is if you want to reset all of the overrides for a particular layer, rather than clicking on it and going and looking for all the blue labels and resetting them one at a time, you can right-click on the element itself on the canvas and choose Reset Overrides. Another option you'll see here is Update Primary, and I want to show you what that looks like real quick. Let's say for this little tag, we wanted it to be more of a pill shape. Right now, the corners are pretty rounded. It's kind of somewhere halfway between a rounded rectangle and a pill shape. So let's say we want to go all the way and just bump up this radius super high so that we get that pill-shaped button. Now, that is overriding the property for this particular breakpoint. So only the phone breakpoint has that pill-shaped button now. And I might realize that after I've done it and say, oh, I should have done that on the desktop breakpoint so that it would get inherited on all of the breakpoints. But it's not too late. We can just right-click and we can choose Update Primary. And now if we look at any other breakpoint, here's tablet, we've got that pill-shaped rectangle. And then if we go all the way over to desktop, here we go, we got that pill-shaped rectangle. So now it's as if I made that change to the desktop breakpoint, even though I accidentally made it to the phone breakpoint. It's never too late to fix something like that. Back over here on the phone breakpoint, another thing that we can override is the order that layers appear. I can just click and drag this layer to put it in a different place in the stack. And that actually did not affect any of the other breakpoints. It is technically a property. Even though the layer order doesn't appear on the properties panel, it's still a property. And more specifically, it's a property of the parent frame. So if I press Escape to select the parent frame, I can right click and you'll see here Reset Order Override. And we're back to normal. And beyond overriding the order of layers, we can override whether or not they show up on the breakpoint in the first place. So if I select my little tag at the top here, sure, visibility is a property that I can override here on the properties panel, but I could also just tap the delete key on the keyboard. Because like I said earlier, the desktop breakpoint is the boss. You can add and delete layers from the desktop breakpoint, and they add or delete from all of the other breakpoints. But anything we do on a breakpoint that is not the desktop breakpoint is just going to be an override. So while it looks like I deleted it, I actually just overrode the visibility. And you can see here on the layer list, it's still there, it's grayed out, and if I select it, it's really just the visibility property that has been toggled from yes to no. And I can reset that at any time by switching it back to yes or by resetting the override. It's probably not ideal to get in the habit of using the delete key to hide things on breakpoints that aren't the desktop breakpoint, because occasionally you will be working on the desktop breakpoint. You'll forget, you'll hit delete, and you'll actually delete something. So it's probably good to commit to memory the keyboard shortcut Command semicolon on a Mac, or control semicolon on a PC, which will toggle the layer visibility without accidentally deleting anything. If you make a total mess of a breakpoint and you just want to start over, you can always just delete it and then add it again. As long as it's not the desktop breakpoint, of course, because remember, that's the primary breakpoint where your layers actually live. A little trick I'll give you is that the add button actually copies over the overrides from the specific breakpoint you click it on. So I can add a phone breakpoint from the add button here on the tablet breakpoint to copy over the overrides we made there. Or click it from the desktop breakpoint to get a totally fresh start. But I'm going to hit undo a few times to get back to where we were. It's awesome being able to see all of our breakpoints side by side, but it's also great to preview how things will behave in the browser and see the magic happen. I'm just going to press Command P on my Mac to switch to preview mode. And then here in the preview window, I can grab the handles to drag the viewport like I usually do. And you'll see that as soon as I cross those thresholds from one breakpoint to another, the layout switches automatically, which is exactly what will happen in the browser. We can also switch between our breakpoints by clicking up here on this drop-down menu and choosing the specific breakpoint that we want to jump to, and it will jump to that breakpoint at the size that it appears on the canvas. So we don't have to drag things into a specific position or type a number here in the width field. And then you also may have noticed there is a next button and a previous button to just cycle through our breakpoints. Or you can use the keyboard shortcuts, which are Command period and comma on a Mac, or Control period and comma on a PC. And that'll let you just quickly cycle from breakpoint to breakpoint, again, at the size that these appear on the canvas. Each breakpoint also has its own preview button to jump directly into previewing at that particular viewport size. Let's head back to the design canvas and talk about this text for a sec. Specifically, this main heading that's looking a bit too large on the phone breakpoint. With regular text layers, you can of course override the size like any other property. But when you use text styles, you can define how the text responds to breakpoints within the style itself. That way, anywhere you use that style, it'll always adapt to different viewport sizes without having to worry about it page by page, layer by layer. We looked more deeply at text styles in a previous lesson, but we skipped over this breakpoint section at the bottom. All we need to do is click Add breakpoints, and boom, we get a large, medium, and small breakpoint, each of which have their own settings for size, letter spacing, line spacing, and paragraph spacing. In fact, this min width field here actually lets us set different points for the text to change size than the breakpoints that we're designing on the canvas. For my purposes, I'm just going to leave the large size at 1200 to match my desktop breakpoint. My medium, I'll leave at 810, but I'll keep the size reduced to 48. And small is going to go from 809 all the way down to 0, so I'll leave that alone. But I think I want to make this text even smaller and bring it down so that it fits on 2 lines at perhaps 34 points. I'm going to do the same for this text style here because in my opinion, now that we've reduced our H1 heading down, this subheading looks much too large. So I'm going to come down here, do the same thing, edit the text style, add breakpoints, which automatically adds a smaller size for the medium and small breakpoints. And if I'm happy with that, I can leave it alone, or I could say, let's increase this to 16, but I thought 14 actually looked pretty good. Solid defaults. And then when we go back to the preview window, we can see that the text changes size between desktop, tablet, and mobile, just as expected. For elements like our nav bar and footer that live within a layout template, we set up breakpoints for those things within the layout template itself. I can jump straight into the layout template by double-clicking on the nav bar, which is part of the layout template. And here within the layout template, you could see that I only have one breakpoint. So I'm going to do the same thing again that I did earlier. I'm going to click the plus sign, add my default tablet breakpoint, click the plus sign again, and add my phone breakpoint. And one thing you might notice here is that our nav bar looks a little bit different because our nav bar is a component. And within that component, we have several variants. And one of those variants is called phone. And when you have a variant called phone and you create a phone breakpoint, it automatically switches to the variant called phone. Framer's just trying to help you out there. But if I go back, let's say this didn't happen automatically. What's happening here is that on the properties panel for this particular breakpoint, the variant is just being overridden from desktop to phone. So you could also accomplish the same thing manually, regardless of how you've named your variants. Now let's zoom back out. Our footer is the next glaring problem. So the first thing I'm going to do before I start working on these is I'm going to stretch these out and make a little extra room for myself, because when you're working on a layout template, we're working with a fixed height preview of the breakpoint frame. So we got to make enough room for ourselves to work. So let's zoom in here on the tablet breakpoint and see what we're dealing with. It looks like our links are really the problem. We've got a collision going on here. These links are fitting the content, and the content just happens to be so wide that it starts to go off the screen. So not good. And there are a few ways around this. We could change this from a stack to a grid, so that way we can have two axes here where we have 2 columns and 2 rows. That actually kind of solves the problem. Or leaving this as a horizontal stack, we could just enable wrap. And because we have fit size turned on, it's going to clamp down as tightly as it can, which squishes everything down to 1 column. So if I switch this to fixed, I could also just make this a bit wider until 2 columns fit, and I can leave that as is. And you might be thinking, okay, fixed, that's kind of inflexible. But because what we're seeing here on the canvas is the minimum size of this tablet breakpoint, we know that these things are never going to collide. Now let's look at what's going on with the phone breakpoint, which is a bit more constrained. I'm going to head down here, and things are definitely getting pretty squashed. And if we look at the parent frame for our footer, Framer actually tried to do us a favor here and override the direction from horizontal to vertical, because horizontal is obviously not going to work for a viewport this narrow. So it switched it to vertical for us. And you may have seen the height of this just jump. And that's because we have a bit of a conflict here with the sizing properties of the layers inside of this frame versus the properties of the frame itself. And it all starts here with this space between. We're telling things to occupy the available space. And then we also have the height of the frame clamping down to the layers that are within it. And then we also have some layers within the frame that are trying to expand to fill the height of it. So we've got some conflicts going on now that we're dealing with this one vertical axis. So I'm just going to switch distribute to start, so that way we can take control over the gap here. And I'm going to set this gap property to 80. And the frame that caused that layout to jump was actually this one, the info frame, which you can see has now become a fixed height. On the other breakpoints, this is actually set to fill the height, which is only possible because we have the nav links next to it that are kind of propping up the height, acting as sort of like a structural scaffolding, almost like a piece of wood propping up the height of the footer so that it doesn't collapse when we set this to fill it. So now that we're dealing with a vertical layout, the fill height really just doesn't make sense anymore. So we've got to go with fixed, or I can switch it to fit to clamp this down, and then I can add the gap back in to get things looking kind of the way they were before. And this will give us the opportunity for those social icons to get pushed out of the way if that text needs to reflow. And let's also make sure that the text is able to reflow, because right now we've got the width of this frame clamping down with fit sizing. I'm going to make that fill the viewport instead. And then the text box, same thing. We've got a fixed size on this text box, so it's not going to reflow on wider phone viewports unless I come over here and set this to fill as well. Then we pretty much just got our nav links down here to worry about. So much like I did on the tablet breakpoint, I can just turn on wrap. So when these run out of width, they'll just fall down to the next line, one after the other. And because we're filling the full width in a single column, I'll change the width of this parent frame to fill. So that way these links can take full advantage of the width that they have available to them. If 2 fit side by side, they'll end up side by side. If 2 don't fit side by side, then we'll get a single column. So let's actually preview that and see what it looks like. I'll press Command P. And there we go. On a wider mobile phone, we get more columns. On a more narrow mobile phone, we get fewer columns. But the one thing that we can count on is that nothing will get cut off. And there you have it. Now you know how breakpoints allow us to make more drastic adaptations to different viewport sizes and device types, which you can combine with the fluid layout techniques from previous lessons to create smoothly responsive sites that look and work beautifully at any size. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.